Doing it live. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever the case may be. It is Wednesday Frat Chat here on Blacklist Universe. Bottoms up. What does that mean? Bottoms up. Well, I suppose I should have had this ready considering I've been sitting here trying to figure stuff out all day. But, anyways, bottoms up. Boys are in. Let's bring the boys in too. Oops, why are they solo laying out? There we go. So the bottom's up, skimmed along the bottom of the market, and it looks like we had a nice little pump. And I talked about this earlier today, but the pump's running out of gas. We'll just see what happens after this. Zach?
Yes.
Thoughts
Thoughts
on that?
Thoughts are we're going to move sideways for the next 3 months, 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts.
It's
Which is fine with
what
me.
if we don't, dude? What
if we don't,
like
we're gonna break out and good for us, or we're gonna dip, which I'm going to buy. So I don't know. I really don't care. Either way.
I really want us to go sideways until we launch chats.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I have that feeling too, where it's like I want it to stay this low when I launch my stuff, so it'll be cheap, gas cheap, and all the stuff,
Yeah. And for the first time on our show, my old friend, we've known each other for damn near 3 decades.
Yes.
Snakebite Cortez, what's up?
What's cracking in? Thank you for
doing?
having me.
Absolutely. Introduce yourself. Tell us what you're up to these days.
Well, as Mike mentioned, I met him about 30 years ago during the image boom, and that's what got me into the business. I was a in-studio color guidist back before the digital era really took over. Back when guys worked on the computer, and then there was the artist, and then eventually it merged into artist and computer guys, right? So that's how I started. And I've worked for a lot of different comic book companies. I've worked for big corporations and indie. I've done indie projects. What really put me on the map in comic books was a book called The Red Star. And man, I've done everything from fashion design to animation. I've ran some businesses around art, worked in tattoos a little bit, done a little bit about everything. But I'm at the point in my life where we're always learning more, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what this is about for me. Like, I'm here to learn. These days, I'm developing my own IP, so I feel like it fits in line with my agenda. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I contacted Mike because I've been following Mike online and just listening to what he's about and what he's been sharing. And what I've tuned into is what he kind of stresses, and that's the utility of the NFTs. So
welcome.
Yeah. Thanks. Tell me when I'm trailing.
No. You neglected to mention that you're a beard farmer too.
Yeah, I'm a beard farmer, right? I have a duck dynasty, but it's wrapped up 3 times, so you can't really see it.
My kids.
Your family, right on. Yeah.
Yeah, they're always in here. They're like my co-pilots on the ship.
So the one thing about NFTs, I don't know how much you want me to ramble about it, but
well, let me hit a question real quick, and then you can come back to that. JH&H Property says, what happened to the Odyssey thing? We really enjoyed Unapologetic American. You have been missed. The thing that happened to Unapologetic American was, I was really rocking and rolling that channel. I got up to, I brought it up from like 300 subs to like 14,000 subs in like 2 weeks. And then YouTube killed my channel. And so then I tried to start it again, and like, somebody is just constantly flagging me. So every time I even tried to do anything political, I'd get flagged, and
cowards.
And it was killed me. And I even stopped doing my Bible study because like the first time back doing my Bible study, I got flagged, and I got a week suspension for mentioning that stuff you're not supposed, that you stick in your arm that's full of mRNA. See,
the magical elixir.
Yeah, the magical elixir that changes your DNA.
Mm-hmm.
So man, it's Odyssey. It's like impossible to build an audience on Odyssey, and so I had to let it go. I'm still as staunchly opinionated as I always have been. Snakebite knows he follows me on Facebook.
That's right. That's what's appealing. Well, see,
So that
what I've always appreciated about you throughout the decades, and we mostly only saw each other during convention times,
Mhm.
is that you're consistent, number one, and you're open to discussion, right? And I feel like there's a lot of people, and this is what I like about the idea of NFTs and the digital era of exchange and building value for each other through this technology we are calling blockchain, is that the further I can get away from the dependence of these small-minded fucking excuse my French,
Yeah.
communities.
We try not to speak French.
I'll try to watch my shit. Oh, I just did it again. See? I'm terrible. I got what you call potty mouth. So, you just have to forgive me. I'm going to do my best, gentlemen, but please forgive me. But they're really small-minded and they're very close-minded. I don't care if you're on the left or the right. I think both camps can, be guilty of the same thing. And as long as people are open, and that's why I like the NFT, is because then it makes everything open, right? It's open again. There's far more ways to be independent than there are ways to be dependent now, which is exciting to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Except for to the closed-minded people who are like,
Mhm.
you're destroying the world. You can't sell a monkey on a JPEG.
So silly. It's so silly. I think I like it as, look, I'm skeptical as the next person. That's another thing I think that, a guest like me is going to be like addressing things of the digital era and the problems around the digital era. But I, for one, think it could be both. I think there can be digital and tangible. I think they're both valid. And I think if we embrace all the options of currency, the better, right? Instead of just saying it's this or that. So as someone who is traditionally analog and likes to be connected to the world, and who was pretty much resistant to the digital currency thing when it first hit the stage, and still to this day, I'm very skeptical. I still find the utility in things like NFTs because it's just like any other collector's market, right? Except for there's a meta aspect to it.
Yes.
That allows you to give the people who are investing in you so much more access and value and longevity. And you can still connect yourself to that exchange and gain as the artist who sold it, which is like, why wouldn't you like that idea?
Yeah.
But
It's
I think it
incredible.
comes down to,
dude,
I think
imagine if the stuff we had in the 30s, in 30 years ago, right? If we had sold pieces of art back then, and then like we got 10% off of each subsequent sale from that, right?
well, absolutely. I mean, the issue of what is it, value exchange, royalty exchange, came up early in my career. It's like, we're developing, I worked for one of the first image guys, and all the young cats that he was hiring were basically developing his IP. Yeah, he may have came up with the idea, and yeah, I mean, there's plenty of ideas out there. It's really an execution of an idea that brings value to an idea. So you hire a bunch of young cats who develop these IPs for you, and then you control all of it and don't really share it. And then that was kind of the beef that everybody had with Marvel and DC, and that's why Image was formed to begin with. And a multitude of other companies since then, all based their marketing scheme off their beef with how companies treat them, right? This changes that whole dynamic completely, right? Because anything that you create and put out into that sphere will always come back to you, and it's of value for someone who is collecting it to put value back into it, and vice versa. It's a perpetual thing, right? It's a perpetual reciprocity, and I'm all about it.
Yeah. Going back to like the image thing, it's and I know what you're talking about, like the studio mentality. The studios each essentially became their own mini Marvel or DC, but they were just
Right.
kind of clumped together under that big eye, that trash can eye logo.
Right.
But essentially that's what it is, and that is oddly the only way I think you can really compete with Marvel. I don't even think you can compete with Marvel and DC anymore because they're R&D for, Warner Brothers and Disney.
Decades of brand. Okay, I
Well,
hooked up.
well,
I hooked up with Napster when they tried to rebrand themselves years ago, right? And their whole conversation was their statistics on how people responded to the brand because of all the controversy, whatever, all the money that was put into building that brand gave everybody an impression, and they based the value of their new company off the impression of the current market. When you would go and do a consensus and go, what do you think of Napster? I like Napster, right? And they built a value spreadsheet on that, and their company was able to get a budget based on just a perceived value, right? So when you were, even Prince said like he wouldn't be Prince without the publishing house, right? The distributor, because they got the eyes. Me and Sammy were talking about that today. We sign on to these publishers because they got the eyes that we don't, and we sacrifice ourselves to get those eyes. And
right.
what a lot of these guys now are doing, they're banking on the beef that the fan base has with these companies, and they're going, yeah, we hate them too, come follow me, let's go,
And prior to I don't know, recently, during the image days, it was like a lot of people, they have this mentality that it's like, okay, I'm gonna go work for Marvel and DC, and I'm gonna build up my brand working for them because they're gonna promote me, which is absolute hogwash, because the last round of people they promoted was like in the early 2000s, right? It was like Ed McGuinness and Todd and some of those other guys in that time period. Then they stopped promoting individual artists at all. Remember, it used to be like DC Young Guns or whatever it was, and they were pumping up these guys. But they're like, "Wow, look what happened when we promoted Jim and Rob and Mark and
right." No, it's true. And the same rings for a lot of these guys that are doing a successful independent move now. Is that they're banking off their time working for Marvel, and they're talking shit about it. So they're saying, "Oh, I worked for these guys forever, but fuck them, and come buy my book." And I'm like, nobody would have given a fuck about you if you didn't work for Marvel. Oh, excuse my French again. I did it again. Sorry. Forgive me.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like, you got to have gratitude. And that's what maybe we're sidetracking a little bit, because ultimately it comes back down to the solution is we have a digital exchange for all of that nonsense and whatever and stuff that I really don't care to get into too much. I like the solutions that the digital age is kind of bringing us. First it was the internet, and then it was these social media platforms, which are kind of like a love-hate dynamic, and now we have things like digital currency, which can be defined by the value. I think this is the full circle, right? The value that you give, the utility is the language, I guess, that you're giving these people in your art and in your NFTs and however you package it. Like this one dude sold his, I told you, Mike, this story. This one dude sold his used car, which was worth nothing. He put an NFT to it and got like close to 10 grand for it. So it could be anything. It could really be anything. And that's what excites me the most, where the old industry and those old models are just a bunch of coattailing, boxed nonsense, that's been done a million times. Now we're in the frontier. We're like, anything goes.
Yeah. Hey, can you answer that for me, Zach? I gotta close my door. Zach took a piss. All right. Force Ghost Fabio asked, do all NFTs act as smart contracts? No. I like to point out that it's NFT. The T stands for token, right? So it's the token that's on the blockchain, but really, essentially, it's a blank sheet of paper. I always compare it to a blank sheet of paper. I could write a smart contract on it, or I could just leave it blank. If you leave it blank and it points to a piece of art or a piece of music or a video, then that's all it is, right? Or you can associate, or on the metadata, you can put the contract on the metadata that points it to. Suddenly, if you own this NFT, like for example, with the crypto chads, then you get random tokens airdropped into your wallet. So it can be anything. It could be the ownership to my house. I could NFT it and just say, oh, everybody that owns a funky monkey, this is not happening. I'm just making a point. Owns a piece of my house, and then like I take that money and I pay off the house, and then suddenly 2,000 people own my house instead of me. So literally, you could do anything. It's a blank piece of paper.
That's a terrible example.
It is a terrible, terrible example. But I asked Zach, and
I just had a nightmare when you said that. Like,
wait, you asked me what? Sorry.
So I asked you to answer the question while I went to close the door, and you're like,
he got sick of me rambling.
Crickets.
No, my dog started barking, and my dog never barks, so I had to go check that out. So I had to mute and figure out, and it probably is exactly when you were like, "Hey Zach, do something," and I was like, "Eh."
Yeah, no, and it's not even just NFTs, but even cryptocurrency. It's the utility of cryptocurrency. Not talking about like Bitcoin, but most companies in the Web3 space, they don't do stocks, right? They do crypto, and so the value of their crypto is the value of their company and what value and utility that company brings and offers to the Web3 space. So the old days, everybody was buying stocks because they wanted AT&T or whatever, but now it's like, oh, I want to be a part of this new video game company. How can I invest in it? Bro, you buy their token. That is the utility. It's like and if that video game company blows up and they just continue adding utility to their token, then bada bing, bada boom. It's a beautiful thing.
So what happens when they don't blow up and you lose?
Well, then it just becomes speculative. If they fail to offer, then like just today, this sucks so bad. All right, so I own NFT World's NFTs and NFT World's tokens because I'm staked, and so I'm collecting NFT tokens as well. NFT World's tokens, and a few months ago, these things were worth 18 ETH each, I believe. Was it that high? I forget, but it was some ridiculous number like that. Yeah. And then today, it's a Minecraft video game NFT world. And then today, Microsoft comes out and says, okay, we're not going to let you guys do this, which is what I said at the very, very beginning. But then it seemed like Microsoft said they were cool with it. But then all of a sudden, Microsoft says they're not cool with it. And it crashed all the way down to like under 1 ETH. And I'm like, that's no good. So I don't know what the future is with that, but that's like, someone else can pull the rug out from under you like that. That's a killer.
That sounds no different than any other like stock market dynamic, right?
Yeah.
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 I mean, that's why I've never really been a speculator, right? Like I look at it fully as something that facilitates my goals as a creator and as a storyteller and as a world builder. I don't even look at it like a collector at all. I never have, though. I've never been a collector of stuff. Except for tools. It's the only thing I collect.
I want to find tokens and NFTs that are sound and have a promising future, and then you're kind of like taking a shot and you're like, I support this idea. I think they have a good team. They've got a solid reputation behind them or whatever it is, and it's an idea that the space needs. And I'm like, all right, I'll throw $200 to $1,000 at some company like that,
right?
And it's like if they do really well, then I do really well. And if they somehow screw the pooch, then my investment is worthless. But I don't put all my money into these little things, right? I believe in the tent pegs,
right?
The Chainlink and ETH and Bitcoin.
No, I get it. I think that I wish that I would have adopted some of those investment type of mentalities as a young man. I never.
Oh yeah, Well, it's like I was telling you about. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad 5 years ago, and it totally changed my perspective on everything. Because like you keep talking about, not trusting digital currency.
Right.
Bro, the USD is digital currency.
Oh, I know. I'm definitely. I say I'm anti-establishment. I don't trust any of it.
Yeah,
So I dig it.
It's the
but
worst.
the digital,
I mean,
the digital aspect. At least with the cash, I can carry cash. I can keep cash. I mean, they're making it harder to. But if anything happened, I could still have my cachet somewhere and be fine. With the digital stuff, it's very easy to be like, oh, you're not in line with the magical elixirs. I guess you have no access to food this week, Mr. Cortez. So those are the things, the dystopian stuff, because nerds are ruining it for everybody right now. So, they're the biggest culprits with this nonsense, the fantasy pushers. So, everything they write in their dystopian movies, they can't wait to happen in real life. They're freaking excited. See what I did just there? I caught myself.
That.
Yeah. They're excited. They're excited to muzzle you up and inject you with stuff and make sure that you're punished for your behavior that makes them uncomfortable,
Yeah.
And they're the ones developing the software and all of that stuff. So, they're all wannabe statist, acting like superheroes. It's a crazy dynamic that's going on.
It's like every dystopian novel
of
the last 100 years is suddenly they're trying to foist all of them on us at the same time.
Oh yeah, for sure. And they love it. Like San Diego Comic-Con right now, they're forcing people to mask up to attend. Like they want to
or be tested, and be tested.
In addition,
you have to be tested. I could bring it up, but you have to be tested or vaccinated.
Yeah, I like to know. Okay, first of all, like, not to rant too much, but there is no test. Number one, I challenge anybody to tell me what the test is, and I'll show you how wrong you are. And
well, you can take an HIV test and get positive because you had the vaccine.
Yeah, there's no test to tell you that a virus is making you sick. It's a fantasy thing. It's something that they wrote in movies, right? It doesn't really exist.
All right, this is where we get my channel banned.
Okay, sorry.
Don't worry, he's used to it. Go ahead.
So I just want to say the other thing too, which is most important, is what you were talking about on your page about federal law and everything. The only law of our land, thank God, our country is a common law country, and the only law of the land is common law, the one that's given to us by the Creator, right? And that's what the Bill of Rights is trying to protect. It's not giving us our rights. It's trying to protect the rights of the nation that they want under common law, which is God's law, which is cause no one harm or loss. These guys want to push a code law, a policy law, which makes their fear go away, where they're telling other human beings what they can do, which that's called slavery, right? That's what we fought against. So they try to put these things in place called, legalities. That's what I was telling you, the difference between law and legal, and policies and procedures in place of actual natural law. And that's why I'm like disgusted by when I see, Comic-Con they're all doctors now. They're giving out medical advice, right? They're giving out medical advice in order for you to conduct commerce.
Well, it's kowtowing. It's kowtowing to the most fearful aspects of society,
100%. That's what the nerds are. I'm telling you, like, I grew up part nerd. Let's not get it twisted. You're a nerd, I'm a nerd, Zach's a nerd, we're all nerds here. But there's a base to us, right? We're still grounded in reality. We know that stuff's fun, but that's fantasy. But what I find curious is a lot of these guys that write superhero books are acting like villains.
Yeah.
Yep.
They didn't learn any of the lessons growing up.
No, they learned all the wrong ones. They were just like, they saw Lex Luthor as the hero.
Well, it's crazy because I felt like the Joker and the Heath Ledger's Joker was the hero compared to Batman in that movie. So I think that I think in the 90s somewhere, like, all the heroes kind of became more sociopathic, like more self-serving and everything. I think that's when boys, I mean, look at the younger gen.
That started with Dark Knight.
Right.
The
Oh,
total
right.
deconstruction of superheroes started with
Right.
Dark Knight, Watchmen,
Right.
Wild Cards, and
Right.
it completely shifted the way. That's when that superheroes grew up. Right,
Right.
now, no, they stopped having a core. They stopped having truth. That was the beginning of what just culminated now when Superman can no longer say truth, justice in the American way.
Right.
Right. That's when it started. And Frank Miller wasn't trying to do that to the whole system.
Or was he? This
I
is the
don't
same
think
guy.
he
This is
was.
the same guy who wrote
I
Sin
think
City,
he's
dude.
lamented
Yeah.
that he's basically he darkened the entire industry because of how popular that one book was.
I think that's why I was so attracted in the 90s to European books more than the American books, because there was more fantastical and really dove into the fantasy aspect and not trying to blur the lines between, superheroes and reality. It's like, no, we should have fun with the superheroes. We should have fun with those worlds. It shouldn't be so
Serious.
serious. But at the same time, I'm definitely one to support the idea of putting your philosophy into your stories. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Because it shapes the world. I mean, we're here
Yeah, it's
right
called
now.
a worldview for a reason, right?
Right. Exactly. Right. Totally. And
Yeah.
and me and Mike talked about this yesterday. We're in a state that we're in where we think that we can tell people what to do because of our emotions, right? Because a lot of these people just grew up on fantasy and that's their diet. It's Lucky Charms and puppets and cartoons
And
and
everybody got a trophy.
everybody got, and now and it
Oh.
just escalates, right? Or everybody now at this point, like, you could just tell me I'm a dog today. Okay, I got it, right? I'm a
Who is that?
puppy.
Who, I barely glimpsed that story. Isn't somebody working like? Is it?
Is that a
for
true story? I
Congress?
just made that up.
Yeah,
No, it's a
there's
very, very true story. It's a very true story.
somebody that's like one of these furry puppy people is. They work for the Supreme Court. Who was it, Zach?
It is the it's the energy, Secretary of Energy.
Is that bald dude? in the dress?
Yes. And
he identifies as a puppy.
No, he doesn't just identify as a puppy. He like has a harem of men puppies. It gets weirder. We're not okay, people. We're not okay.
No.
Okay. If someone that's out there, please help. We're not okay.
Yeah, this is why I'm anti-establishment, gentlemen. This is why I'm like, embrace the common law. It's the law of our creator, of God, and that's called self-responsibility. Stop asking the state for anything. They have no power. So I was telling Mike today, I'm like, they're not there to rule. That's not their place. They're glorified administrators who got bloated off their power, and quite frankly, people corrupt on convenience. Let them.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to say hi to Kevin Sharp.
Hi, Kevin.
Hey, everybody.
How you doing,
Glad to
buddy?
be on.
Oh, dude, that's you. That's you in the corner. I'm getting this format now.
Oh yeah.
That's him in the corner.
Dope.
Nice. Oh yeah, I just had some artwork sitting out.
Nice volume.
Yeah. He's all about the muscle men.
He's a juicy volume going on there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Love it.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, Kevin's all right.
My dogs are being very loud this evening. That's why I was muted. Sorry about that, everybody out there listening.
It's okay. I got a dog. I got a dog.
I got very, very mouthy chihuahuas.
Got to tell them to shut up all day.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. Yep. You get it. Definitely.
But you'll miss it when when it's gone. They live. They don't live long enough.
Yeah. I love them. I also love to hate their barking.
Oh yeah, that drives me nuts.
I'm gonna put you up like this, Kevin, so we can just look at your art.
Oh yeah, I'm actually drawing something, Mike. Let me post. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, I mean,
I never draw on this show anymore. I'm actually drawing something for once.
Some good angles.
Oh, it's Zach.
Do
Why does
that.
it say Oz?
Because that's my code name. I have to be careful now. I'm a teacher. I have to be careful.
Oh, oh.
We've
okay,
all
I'm sorry.
got code names here.
It's my Web3, man.
No, Snakebite wasn't named that at birth.
You
Yeah,
hear that?
by
We're
a
using
pack of
code
werewolves.
names.
Like a pack of werewolves gave it to me.
Oh my gosh! Every time I close this door, hold on.
We're using code names.
Who's doing that, John? Who's doing that?
That is Zach.
Oh, that's me.
Ah,
Dope. That's dope.
Thanks, man.
What's that for, Zach?
Oh, it's broken.
What?
Yeah, Kenneth Rockefeller.
oh, you're doing something for him? Cool.
No, it's not. I'm doing it as a fan art because he's like my secret comic artist
Right.
crush that I've had since I read Madame Mirage,
Oh, okay.
and when I was like in college, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this art, and then I've bought in every single book that he's ever done. So
Yeah.
Are you gonna keep it in the monochromatic? Are you
no, I'm gonna add color. I'm just getting it all put together.
doing the underpainting?
Yeah, essentially.
It's dope.
Thank you, sir.
Looking good, brother.
Yeah.
We still hang out with good artists over here.
Yeah.
It's like a virtual studio.
It's dope.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mike found me on the side of the road begging for attention, I guess.
Did you do a little dance for him?
Oh yeah. I don't think Mike or anybody really liked me at first. When you go look back at like the very first time I ever came on, they were like so mean to me and they grilled me so hard, and I was like, I don't think they like me.
What's changed?
Nothing. They still don't like me, but at least I'm okay with that. I've just grown to accept it.
Yeah.
well,
It also it
you-
didn't help that when Matt like left, I became the bottom of the joke.
Yeah,
The
you
buddy
became our
joke.
whipping boy.
Yep.
We need Matt back.
Yes.
Oh well. So what's going on with the game?
The game is going well. We're working on the smart contract. We had it complicated, and the more complicated we made it, the worse it became. So for future reference of people who are going to write smart contracts, keep it simple, because when you go to test it and mint it, it costs a lot because it's based on information and data, the gas price. So just to like when we're doing the test servers, thank goodness we were using a faucet, because it was like costing like 4 or 5 Ethereum just to test it, of this like fake Ethereum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we were like, yeah, no, we're not. How do we, not have it do this? So basically, what we're ending up doing is most of the data is going to be held on our own private servers where we can control it, and we're just literally making a smart contract that literally is going to be like handing people a card, essentially. You know what I mean, with some numbers on it, and then those numbers will change, and it'll just be really easy back and forth. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And like
okay.
it has a very minimal amount of data
Yeah,
on these
yeah,
NFTs.
yeah.
You know, because at first we were like, yeah, no, we can get them to do this and that and this and that and this and that. And then we were like, yeah, let's test it out. We're like, let's not do that.
And you can essentially just code, or not. I don't mean code, but I mean like put things in code
Yes.
that translate out into like full explanations on screen.
Yes.
Yes.
So we chose to keep it simple, and we're keeping the metadata just like super basic. But yeah, that's going good. And
So I got a question.
Yeah.
Because I'm a new guy here. What kind of game is this for?
It's a top-down twin stick shooter called Madams and Monsters.
And you're building it using
Unreal 4 right now.
Unreal 4.
Yeah.
And then you're funding it with people investing in NFTs?
Yes.
Dope.
Yeah, no, they'll buy an NFT, they'll be able to take their NFT, play it in the game as their character, And then when they sell that NFT, it'll record all the information and data of the leveling and anything they've done with that character. So the next person will have a leveled up character. So it's like essentially you get to invest your time into this NFT, and it stays with you, and you can sell it if you like. Are like, yeah, no, I don't have time anymore to play it. And then someone else comes in and they want to play it. They can start with a leveled up character, essentially.
So, what's different for the layman? What's different? How does that differ from, like, let's say the video games 10 years ago, where people were investing tons of money into their characters and their levels and their powers and all that stuff?
It's not different. It's in fact the idea is based around exactly what you said, like World of Warcraft, when they would, like, those guys would level up their characters and then they would sell them. But the thing is that the transaction, the way they did it, was unsecure, and a lot of them were scams, and a lot of people got scammed, and so it was a big problem. You know what I mean? And also, Blizzard didn't like it when people did that, because you're making money off of their game without them getting any cut. So it's like it was also illegal for them to do. So the way we're doing it is secure, because you buy and sell through the official NFT sites. You know what I mean? Any one that we support, like, will be mostly looks rare, will be our main, I guess you could call it a marketplace. And you can buy and sell from there, and you'll know, and it'll be secure, and everything will work that way. And it won't be illegal, because it's built into it. It's you're supposed to be able to do this. You know what I mean?
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So do you get, are you still tied to the sale? Like,
yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, there's a small royalty for every time people trade or sell the NFTs. So we'll be getting a small royalty from those. And then basically like that royalty will be helping us to fund the tournaments and the other things that we want to do in the game.
Right. So, which that's what I was saying earlier about what I really like about this relationship between the creator and the buyer or investor or collector, or whatever you want to call them, is this self-churning reciprocity. Like, it's valuable for you to create more things with that currency, right? Yes. That creates more things.
Exactly. Well, the cool thing is that the way that we're setting it up is that these NFTs not only help us, but they help our partners. We have it set up where when it goes and scans, when you start up the game and it looks at your MetaMask wallet, it'll look for any of our partner NFTs. And if you have any NFTs from our partners, it'll actually give you more benefits during the gameplay. Wow. So it doesn't just, it's the cool thing about blockchain technology is that you have like this access, because that's all blockchain technology is. It's an open ledger of transactions. So we can use that and basically look at, hey, you own Funky Monkey Frat House. You have access to the Funky Monkey Frat House in the game. You can go do the mission and unlock the ability, the special ability. And now you have that special ability because you have a Funky Monkey Frat House. You know what I mean? NFT. So it goes with all of our other partners. So it's like this cool cross dynamic that we're able to do. And we're also, it allows us, when we make another game, if you owned any of our previous NFTs, it'll benefit you in those games. You know what I mean? So it's like your investment will carry over throughout anything that we do. So, people. So,
yeah, totally. I'm following you. I dig it. So how do you have to consider all of those future goals in the code that you're currently writing for these NFTs?
No, that's the cool part, is that the way we're doing it literally is because since they're based on separate collections, and since the game is separate, we programmed in the game to look inside your MetaMask wallet for very specific collections, So, and it'll just basically go like it'll look for the smart contract that is Funky Monkey Frat House smart contract, and it'll ping that, and it'll look under all the IDs, and it says, does it have any of these IDs? And if any of them pop up, then it'll be like, yes, they have that. Then it'll mark it on their profiles. And yes, they have a Funky Monkey Frat House. You know what I mean? Right. So when they go in to play it, it's in the background, there's a little check mark where it says Funky Monkey Frat House or Cyber Hornets, or and then they'll have access to these things in the game. And we didn't have to touch any of their code to do that. That was all built in the game engine. So
fantastic.
That's the cool thing about all this stuff, is because if you think about it, like all these NFTs are more so they're like VIP passes that you get to keep for things. You know what I mean? And I could do it for any collection that we want. You know what I mean? We could do it for collections that they don't even know. You know what I mean? They don't even know we did it for them. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden it's like a surprise, and whether they like it or not, who cares? But there's like a lot of opportunity to do a lot of really cool stuff with this technology. And
it seems endless.
It really is. It really is.
And still undefined. Like there's still all this other potential that we haven't even really tapped into. Like,
no, it's going to be incredible when they actually figure out, if they ever figure out, because the government's the last to the party on everything.
Right.
Like the potential of NFTs and what they can do to protect people from like identity theft and things of that nature.
Right.
It's going to be incredible when that happens, if that happens, So.
Yeah. And I think that's where I think maybe more people will start developing their own systems of blockchain, right? Like more on a personal level.
Yeah. Or just more people be getting into it. Well, actually, no, it's kind of crazy is that I was talking to kids because I got hired at a high school. So I had to go over there for a week and hang out with them over the summer. And I was actually talking to the kids, and they knew about cryptocurrencies and blockchain.
Of course.
Already. They all knew. And I was blown away, because this future generation they're growing up with it. They're going to, they're all into it, and they're excited because I get to teach them how to make NFTs as an art teacher.
Dude, some of the coolest stuff I learned is from some 10-year-old in a jungle somewhere. Like the young kids are like, kicking our butts, and they don't know any different. And as an older cat, I don't know how old you are, but as an older cat, I the biggest obstacle for me is like old paradigms.
Mm-hmm.
Right, just breaking old paradigms and just like going, you don't have to do it. All these different things that you were preparing for changed now, completely changed, and just changing your method of problem solving is the biggest obstacle, because you're so zeroed in on one way of doing something that now it's just a matter of like 2 weeks and there's a new trend that I get so frustrated every time I say, oh, I got to do this. And people are like, you got to learn this new application. Like, how many applications do I have to learn? It drives me nuts. Like how many applications I have to learn to be relevant, but it's just the old caveman in me. It's my
I'm not that much older than you, but it feels like it's accelerating. I mean, I'm only 30. I'm young. Oh
yeah.
Dude, you're like half our age.
So it's like, you guys have been together longer than like I've been alive.
Right.
Totally. What I mean? Totally. So it's like,
that's the truth.
But the thing is, though, is that like I'm even falling behind like their TikTok and all this other junk, and I'm like, I don't want to do all that, and the language that these kids are using is, I don't even know. I don't get it. I don't even know.
That's how I feel with cryptocurrency and NFTs. It's like there's so much language that comes with it, and it's wild, wild west. So everybody's got a cryptocurrency and everybody's got an NFT, and there's all these different minting platforms to go to, and then markets to sell them at, and everybody's looking for a certain language, and you just don't feel like the hip kid anymore.
Yeah, it's its own language. It really is, and for a long time. I've been paying attention to this for 5 years. I've been in crypto for 5 years this week. And for a long time, I would be listening to these crypto people and it was all going over my head but I just stuck with it because I was really interested in this space. And so it's like you start picking up the lingo, you start picking up the, the understanding of just all the various angles,
Right.
like in blockchain and
Right.
what is a smart contract and all of this kind of stuff. And over time you just become so familiar with it. But then I start spitting this stuff out on my artist YouTube channel, and everybody in the chat's like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yep.
Well, I'm always looking to trim the fat because I've worked in so many professions, and being an independent artist as well as a corporate artist, I'm always redefining myself and what I'm doing. So I love the idea of learning new skill sets and everything, but man, it just becomes so freaking overwhelming.
Mhm. The learning curve keeps getting steeper. That's one thing.
Yeah.
Um,
But I'm definitely more, I think I'm more in tune with the language now, mostly because I like to trim the fat and just kind of like get things as simple as possible. That was the real point I was trying to make earlier before I trailed a little bit. Like I do all these things, so in order to keep the movement and not get caught up in the forever never finishing a project, because you're just making everything perfect and you're trying to understand every angle, it's like just trim the fat to what's the most important thing.
mhm.
So I think Mike's been in crypto for 5 years. I've been paying attention to it for at least 5 years. I just haven't done anything about it because I'm like, trim the fat, trim the fat. Like, how does it apply to me and what it is that I'm doing, and the momentum, the trajectory that I want to go. And it took a long time to just like figure out, like, you meet cats like Mike, and there's another cat that just break it down simple. You seem to have a really good handle on it, and you explain it really simply. But so many other people, especially if you talk to a speculator, they make it really convoluted.
Mhm.
Well, I came into crypto with, like I said, it was the rich dad, poor dad thing, and it was sort of an investment ideology that I wanted to start putting a percentage of every paycheck into an appreciating asset. And cryptocurrency is the fastest appreciating asset in the history of mankind. So it's like you can build generational wealth if you're making the right calls and being smart about it. But I never knew how to get into the space on a business level. Actually, last time around, I did come up with a token idea for a global tutorial system, and I even had a guy from John Harvard Academy who was interested in working with me on it. But then the bear market came, and we just really never did anything with it. So I've always wanted to somehow integrate and bring ideas to this space. And then last year, when I hooked up with BitBoy Crypto, started doing NFTs, I really started understanding it. And I really started understanding how incredibly powerful and economy changing NFTs will be, because making getting in and out of contracts as easy as buying and selling something on your your ledger.
Mhm.
That's going to change. It's going to make life so much easier for a lot of people who want to make investments, who couldn't afford to make investments or get tied up into these contracts that just kill them, right? I have a particular thing in mind, but it's like all these ideas of how we can place real world businesses into the and utilize NFTs in their function and fund businesses through the NFTs. Like I was telling you before, I got a movie idea. It's I don't know, man. My brain is like on freaking crack or something. I'm just always thinking about new ideas. It's hard to stop.
Well, because it opens that door to potential, like nothing but potential. At that point, you just really got to strategize, right? Like,
Yeah.
another conversation I had with my lady earlier today was, so many artists I've dealt with and worked with and who want to work with me, they don't strategize. They just all about the creative part and the romantic aspect of doing cool shit and being excited about that process. Excuse my French again. Being excited about that process, and which is great. The art runs through my veins, but at some point the conversation has to shift to, okay, how are we going to get there?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, how you gonna make it happen? How you gonna finance it? You know? don't give me that money, it's not important stuff. You know,
Yep.
you lose my attention when you say stuff like that. Like, money's absolutely important to the artistic journey. It's actually more so important because the artistic journey is expensive.
It is, because without you, I mean, it's great if you can sit down and you can make a graphic novel or write a book or whatever, and you're just doing it for the exercise of it. But if your purpose is to reach people, then it's going to have to, reach a certain level. It's like, look, man, I just did really well on Lone Star a couple years ago,
Dope.
but still, that was only a couple thousand people, right? It's like, man, if I want to make any kind of a dent in this world, you have to go mass media and be able to afford to market things to hundreds of millions of people. Otherwise, it's,
I kind of go back and forth at that point, because I personally, what I like about the crowdfunding dynamic, let's say as an example, is that I have to reach less people to make the same amount of money. Like when we did Red Star, we had to sell 40,000 units to make $40,000, because you get about, as you know, about $1 per book after all is said and done and paid for. Publisher, distributor, all the people got their hands in it. The creators get about $1 a book, and then they have to divvy it up amongst themselves and then pay for any trips or cons and yada 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 yada. But now, like, the average person spends $40 instead of $4 for your campaign. And to me, I like that. I like what you're saying.
No, on an individual, as a creator, as a guy who's got to pay his mortgage in California,
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
But dude, to have 40,000 people read your book,
it's amazing.
Instead of 2,000 people read your, yeah, man, that's
it was a huge epic. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But it's tough to do, because as we experienced, our journey with publishing is we went with Image first, and then something happened with Image, like they started taking more money or charging us more for their services without upping their services. And
like did they slip in the we had to do our own color corrections, here's extra $3,000?
I think they just put an extra percentage on their cut.
Oh really?
Yeah,
dude, they were literally doing stuff like that to us.
Yeah, I can believe it. Dude, I grew up in the Image. I got no illusions. I know all those dudes, behind the scenes. That's why I'm the bastard stepchild of those circles, right? The name that shall not be spoken. But it's all good, whatever, Thank you. Stay away from me, weirdos.
You started in 92, right?
Yeah,
yeah, I was there in 93. Well, with Image 93, I think.
So when we left, and we, Chris Gossett and crew was like, no, we're going to take our party someplace else, which, I was excited about. I thought we should have went indie from the get-go. But I met them after they already signed the deal, so I had no say in that. But we went to CrossGen, and I almost had a heart attack, right? And our sales dropped as a result. No matter what, it's not CrossGen's fault. It was just the fact that we jumped from these set of eyes. More people were looking at Image than CrossGen. So it was just a basic, numbers thing, bottom line thing. And then, of course, we had a problem with CrossGen, which I knew. That's why I said, don't go to CrossGen. And then within a year, we were on our own, and then everything had to stop, right? Because we lost everything. We went from 40,000 to 10,000. So, again, the point being, you sign on to Eyes, or you can build something from the ground up. So that's what's appealing to me. Crowdfunding and NFTs is 40,000 people it's nice to have, but it's hard to get. Yeah. Especially if you're starting out. But if I could get 2,000 people and they're giving me $40 a pop, then I'm working.
Yeah. Have you been watching what's going on with ISOM?
ISOM.
Yeah.
So
great segue. Great segue.
Yeah.
Mike.
This is Young Ripa's book.
Oh yeah, I have been following.
Okay.
I've been following Young Ripa
40,000.
Wow, he's up to almost 3 million.
He'll have $4 million in his pocket.
Good for him. Now people say he's part of the Comicsgate guys. Is that right?
No.
He's not. He's just friendly with them.
Gotcha. Because
So.
I followed Ripa back when he was in Backwards, the band. No, Blackwards. Was it? No, Backwards, something like that. It's a long time ago. And he was in another band too. So I followed him purely because of his lyrical content in his music. He was talking about statism and all of that shit, or all that stuff, excuse me, in his songs. And then when he did the podcasting thing, he was very political, and he's like young me. Like I was watching young me, right? Like listening to him go on. But then he got caught up in this whole like, you know, anti-Marvel DC rhetoric that everybody gets caught. And I'm just so tired of that. I'm just kind of like, yawn. Why aren't you talking about indie books then if you're so mad at them? Right?
Yeah.
You're an indie artist. You're and this is no disrespect. You know, all respect, all blessings, all success to Rip and make that money, yo. You know, pay your artists right. Make sure you give them more than anybody on the planet, and you're cool with me. Right? If you're making that much money, you better be paying your artists really, 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 really well, and not just $50 more.
This is the kind of money you can use to actually fund something that is competitive.
Absolutely, right? Like put them on payroll, have them make milestones, but put them on payroll, not page rates. You know, like take care of them.
Well, he's using a Brazilian artist, which means he's using a studio, even if he doesn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
You know how the Brazilians work.
Oh yeah, 100%. They buy compound. They buy compounds down there, like literal compounds. Everybody lives in that shit.
Yeah. So I don't know what he's paying him, but
hopefully he's paying him good, whatever. Like that's the only precedent to me. You know, that's the only precedent that I look at that should be established in those circles and those success margins is how are you paying your artist? How are you paying your artist? If you're paying your artist cool and top rate, and I'm not talking like, listen, I just did some work for a company, comic book. I won't name anything because I think my NDA is, you know, still valid right now. That paid me the most that I've ever been paid in the comic book industry. But the thing is, my page rate has been the same since 1997, and in fact, I've watched them all get lowered around me, like all the top rates.
It's crazy, dude. Before I left DC, I was making $20 more a page than I was in the year 2000. That's my last hike. I was like, what?
People get real proud of themselves for those kind of things, right? I paid you $20 more. That's more than you've ever been paid. It's like, yeah, good for you, buddy.
Yeah.
way to step up to 2022, homie.
Yeah. Brazilian. You talking about Isom? I thought Gabe Altaib was doing something. Gabe's just the colorist. I don't mean just the colorist, but Gabe is the colorist, and then I don't know what his name. I looked him up because I was like, I recognize his artwork. I think I've seen him doing some stuff for DC, or at least his studio.
Okay, so let's play a game.
Yeah.
If this guy came to you, you know, and said,
Cliff Richards,
my book just made $4 million. I want you to work on it. What is your rate? I mean, anybody can look up Marvel rates. Everybody knows how nonsense the comic book rates are. You can find them from every company online. It's not a secret. I know everyone likes to try to play like it's a secret, but it's all online. Like, how much would you charge this dude to do a book, knowing that he just made $4 million?
Okay, you're not talking about like me, the guy who just made all this money doing NFTs.
Yeah, he's talking about like I don't actually. You can interpret it however you want, dude. Like, if I'm $4 million, I can approach anybody, right? Like, you're top of your game. I got $4 million, yo. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get you should get the best, right? Like, I got $4 million. I'm doing the book. I'm gonna hire the best. I got money. Like, so I'm going to cat. Like, you wouldn't do it.
He couldn't afford me.
Really?
Yeah, no.
I love it. I love it.
Just based on what I know of Mike, yeah, no. Can't afford Mike.
I remember Alex Ross approached me during Red Star and wanted to do his Gotchaman book, and he said he wanted me to duplicate the book. And at the time, I still think it's a low ball. I gave him $20,000 per issue because he said duplicate. You said duplicate the book. I made a lot of sacrifices for Ed Star, dude, to make that shit happen. That stuff happen. You know, I didn't. I had to spend so much time on that book. So I'm like, okay, you want me to duplicate? So I just did. I calculated how much time. I'm like, 20,000 a book, and that was 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
So
know?
what would you do this for?
As a colorist, because I
No,
don't.
no. Say you're doing the whole thing.
I'm okay. So I'm in charge of the whole thing, and
You're in charge, and you're giving him a budget, and you're gonna hire whoever you want to.
and I'm like the art director /
Yeah.
whoever
Yeah.
I wanted to be.
Just through, not letters or any of that stuff, just or design, just the art.
$1.5.
1.5.
If you made $4 million,
Mm-hmm.
you're made. Let's say you made, and after you pay all your expenses and all that stuff, you made $4 million. Let's just put it like that. I want 1.5 for my whole team, me and my whole team.
Okay, now you're him. As a businessman, would he do that?
I'm him as a businessman. I wouldn't. I'd be putting together my own team and paying them top rate.
But that's the thing. It's like if you're,
I would spend.
But his goal isn't to make money off of one book. His goal is to build a universe, right? So
he raised this money for one book.
Well, he sold this one book.
He still got 2.5 million to do whatever he wants with it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm just being realistic. As a businessman, he would never do that.
Sure.
All right.
I'm telling you right now, nobody in that comic book world would do that.
All right.
Nobody. Not one.
Unless they came in with a percentage of royalties as part of the contract.
I just looked at like this. 10% plus a rate for the colorist, you know, like royalties, break it down like royalties. Like how much royalties do you make as a penciler? Like if you had a deal with a publisher, how much royalties would you make as a penciler?
Jeez, I don't even know what it is.
Like
I just
20?
got my check from DC.
15, 20%?
I don't even know, dude.
AWA gave me a percentage.
Uh-huh.
You know, other companies, I was supposed to have a percentage with Red Star. I don't really go into comic books looking for percentages. I'm actually, I don't want a back end because I don't believe in a back end in comic books. I just want the good rate now, you know, because a lot of these guys are like this much with a back end or this much without a back end. And I'm just like, there is no back end traditionally in comic books, right?
Yeah.
So now I see your back end in the front. Right.
That's right. That's right.
With the crowd.
But you would have had to go into this though.
Huh?
Before when you signed the contract to do this, you would have had to go in with
I would set the percentages. So I would get, if he made $4 million, I got 1.5.
Yeah, but you couldn't know that before you launched it.
No, but you don't know how much you're going to make, but you can set the percentages, Mike.
That's what I'm saying. That's what
like 10% for a colorist, like 20% for a penciler, like how much for a writer, you know, and then we got the inker, you know, these things. Like I didn't even put 50% together of a royalty for that price.
Yeah.
The royalties on the front end of these things, dude, not the back. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the fundamental. This is when I want to get around artists' heads. It's like, this is the fundamental difference of the crowdfunding world and publishing. You get your money in the freaking beginning.
Yeah.
So you better see that money. There's another artist that we both know. He told me, I don't look in people's pockets when I quote them. I'm like, why wouldn't you? Why would you quote Disney the same that you would quote Kmart? Do you know what I'm saying? Like you better look in their pockets and know that they got a budget. And if you just did a campaign for a book you want me to be the head guy on and you made $4 million, you think you're not going to share that with me and the crew? Get out of here. I'll do my own. I'll do my own.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'll do my own, but you know what? You're not going to be Young Ripa.
Well, that's
He's
true.
the reason, the whole reason this is going to make this is going to make freaking $5 or $10 million.
Yeah, this is facts.
But the entire reason is because he's Young Ripa, and he's built a 15-year career making all of these connections with all of these other huge media types.
I said just this today. This is the logistic conversation that I have with people. I'm like, people want to use examples like Young Ripa, and I go, but I've been following him for 10 years. This dude's been building his fan base. He's been doing the work, and God bless him. I got no beef with that. But as soon as you bring me into your vision and you say you work on the book that just made me $4 million, it's like, I'm not doing no comic book, right? Are you kidding me? I'm a grown ass man, right? Like at that point, like I'm thinking like a business too. Like, do you want the best of the best, Young Ripa, or do you just want to get what you can get? And I'm not saying this crew that he has is not good. This promotional.
No, but it's not the best of the best. At this point, he could hire Ed McGuinness or Dave Finch or any number of the top guys to draw his next book, or he could hire all of them for his next 5
like let's
books,
say Alex Ross so Alex Ross works for Marvel, right? And Marvel's like, we're going to do this book and we're projecting based off who we are and hiring you that we're going to make $4 million. How much do you want for you and your crew, Alex?
Yeah, I don't know what Alex would do.
I bet you he'd get 1.5.
He probably would. But you come to the table
because what is that? 30%? Is that 30%? Right? Is that 30%? That's a royalty. That's a royalty. Like I'm including royalties in this fee, right? Like that's a buyout. That's not like you get money on the back end. That's like the back end's on the front. So I'm treating this like I got royalties off of a book that made $4 million. Me and my crew got royalties off a book that made $4 million.
Yeah, I would very much hope his artist set up a percentage deal. I did with Shad. So if that book ever comes out, then and it does really well, then I'll be stoked. But yeah, you gotta see. And that's the thing. I think probably the Brazilian guys. They're the Brazilian guys. They're not going to come in here and push their weight around. They got no weight, right? It's like they're the ones doing the digital comics at DC.
That's what I'm saying. How you pay your artists is what's going to impress me about your campaign, not necessarily how much you raise, because how you pay your artist tells me who you are.
Well, I'm going to give him a little slack on this.
Yeah, I don't know anything.
Not even knowing. I don't know anything.
I don't know anything.
Anybody.
I don't know anything.
I would say I'd give him a slack on the whole thing because he didn't have a clue what he was going to end up doing.
But the percentages, that's why I say percentage. I'm basing it off percentages. Like if it only made $100,000, then 30% for me and my crew of $100,000 is $30,000, and that's how much I make.
Well, it's not, because he pre-invested $200,000 in the entire infrastructure of what he's doing.
Oh, he did.
Yeah. So
that's okay. So that's a different story then. So if you have that much money out, then percentages would be different then. Yeah, of course.
I think
these are details I didn't know with the initial question.
I think going forward, there's a better perspective on what he's probably going to do, and the people that he can hire and will pay will have a set concept of, it's like, bro, you're gonna bring me on. You're bringing me on because my name is Muckety Muck, and Muckety Muck gets the buckety bucks. So it's like,
I like Muckety Muck. I buy his stuff.
He's my favorite.
He's my favorite. Yeah. I don't know that this is the only game at this point with after 30 years of working in and out of comic books and working in other industries that pay far more. Like you get different experiences with how income comes in and how it goes out with other industries, and sometimes they pay far less too. To be real, but at this point of my game, you have to think just like he's thinking. If you're not thinking like he's thinking, then you're just an employee,
Yeah.
And at this point, when you're making money on the front end, and I don't know the details of this particular book, what work got done, who got hired when, yada, yada, yada. But if you're coming on a book that made X amount of money, like you really better start thinking significant income, because comic book game is hard, as you know. Doing books is hard, and what I'm a get it done kind of guy. Like A lot of these crowdfunding guys, they drag their feet. They don't produce. They don't turn around. And I'm just like, get it in the fans' hands, like now.
Oh snap! I wanted to show you. So I talking about dragging my feet, dude. I have been struggling with 3 different colors on this one project for a year and a half, trying to get this thing colored to fulfill it. And I just fired my most recent one, and then I was gonna go with Tio. You know Tio Gonzalez.
No.
And he's like the guy I know would complete the book because he's always met all of his deadlines. And so I fired the other guy and then contacted Tio, and Tio's like, yeah, I don't color anymore. I'm an electrician. I'm like, nah.
I'm telling you, dude. Like,
But
I
then
tell.
Oh no! Oh
I found
no!
this dude, and he's
That's dope.
doing.
I love that.
Yeah. I love his color sense.
Yeah.
His modeling isn't quite what I'm used to.
His
but
color is great, though.
yeah, his color sense is fantastic.
Yeah.
So he's doing a test run for me on some pages. He got right back to me. His communication is instantaneous. That's what I want. So hopefully we'll get some dope samples back, and then I'll be like, all right, do it, bro. 48 pages, go.
I'm telling you, getting that shit done to me.
Yeah,
like
I dig the tone on this one.
Yeah, that's
basically
really nice.
Fuzzy Creature says, are you sure? I thought 200,000 included paying for the talent. I hope he's paying for them for further, or else he's a world of hurt next time. Well, look, if he paid $1,000 a page, on 100 page, it's like a 100-page book, right? That's way over
That's a
general industry standard. That's like
way over.
A-list. Yeah.
But
That's like
but,
top of the line
But
A-list.
FU industry.
Yeah, in an industry that really
you're 30
sucks.
years behind the time anyway.
Yes, I like this one too. It's
I mean, I think of like this. What's your day rate? Right? Like what's this is a rhetorical, you don't have to tell me. You know, everybody has a minimum day rate. Like I work in film and photography and all these things, and day rates vary, and day rates can be up to, $3,000 for a day of your time, depending on what it is that you're doing. It could be $500. Again, all depends on what you're doing. Everybody that's an artist should have a minimum day rate, and that they would, be stupid to turn away from if there was nothing else on their plate. And then they should have their standard, professional day rate, which is, whatever the industry standards are. And they differ depending on what you do. But comic books are like, an artist can spend 2 days. So on a page, right? Easy.
Yeah.
Between the drawing and the inking. And you're like, so is $200 acceptable? Is $500 acceptable for 2 days? Like, I don't think so.
And that's comics. Well, here's the thing.
But that was comics, and that's what I keep saying about now. All these dudes like Young Rippa, God bless, are changing the game. But are they changing the game?
Right.
Everybody likes to say like, I'm changing the game, yo. Well, the game is really human beings, and human beings being taken care of and paid for their creativity. That's
I will point one thing out though. The reason that there's this security in the lower day rate on comics, at least back in the day when people did at least 1 page a day, right, was that you had, like in the real regular illustration world, it's like, oh, awesome, dude, I got a freaking $2,000 illustration gig, and then like 3 months later, oh look, I got another one. It's right. It's like real hard to keep that schedule full. But in comics, it's like you have 30-day gigs at a time, right? You may be getting really low rate comparatively,
and you die at the table.
And then you die at the table, but at least you died with top ramen at the table.
I mean, dude, like again, after 30 years, like the last thing I'm thinking about is working every day in front of this computer. Like just shoot me in the head now. Like, yeah, I want to work for a day and pay for the week. Just sue me. You know, and in Hollywood, we get a taste of that you can achieve those things, right? In comic books, like we do it because we love it. Right. We don't do it. Up to this point, we don't do it.
Well, not just that. Also, because in comic books, I very rarely had an editor tell me to change something. But if you're working in like advertising or illustration or whatever, there's muckety mucks above you that are going to be like, oh yeah, I was thinking if you did this from the totally opposite angle,
Right.
to start over, and then you're like, I already
But you get
finished that.
hourly. If you negotiate hourly,
Yeah,
it's like nope,
as an artist,
no
I
problem.
don't care. I freaking hate that.
Oh yeah, no, I do too. That's why I never could do storyboards and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
I could never do advertisement.
No,
You have to
no.
go through like 10 drafts of the same drawing, and it's like,
Yeah. I had some opportunities to start at ground level in advertisement art, and I'm just like,
yeah, lots of money, but it'll sap your soul.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. You know, so now everything's different. That's the point that I'm going to keep driving home. It's like, yeah, whatever comic books was, it was. Now it is something else.
Oh no.
Right?
I've been trying to talk, and you just muted this whole entire time. What the hell?
Well, and Costin said every single editor except one wanted changes on his stuff. Matt, why are you not in here? You said you would be in here.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, go ahead, Oz.
The only time I dealt with changes is when my editor was also the artist of the book and the publisher of the place, and you know, whenever I dealt with editors, they didn't really. But artists in charge are the worst.
I had one of those, and she wasn't the artist, but it was her baby, and I was like, your baby needs.
You got to watch out for those.
Yeah. Zach, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say, like, you do concept art. You know that like everything is disposable.
Oh right.
Oh,
you know, but like, you know, I don't know. I really enjoyed doing concept art and stuff back when I first started, even though like 90% of everything I drew got thrown away.
True.
You know, but it's part of the I guess it's just basically, you know, your mindset of, do you treasure your art or is it your job? You know, because if you treasure it, then it's like, you don't want to get rid of it. You don't want to change it, you know, but if it's your job is literally just to come up with ideas and literally illustrate as many ideas as you possibly can, you know, within a 8-hour day. And then hopefully something will be picked up, you know, then you don't really care.
That's called, again, if you're getting paid by the hour, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So
that's a dream job. I mean, for some, you know, I used to hang out with a lot of Disney development artists, and those guys were just beasts, and they were just had no ego whatsoever. They're like, whatever, and they just do it over for days and days. And I get that. I totally get that. You kind of have to do that in pretty much any industry. There's got to be an element of that, right? Like, you have to be flexible, especially if you're being art directed and somebody's expecting a certain look, you know.
But man, so irritating. When I was in gaming, I had an art director who would change stuff or tell me to change stuff just so he could interject, right? It wasn't anything like important or anything of value. And you know me, I just started taking my stuff straight to the developer, just straight to the I'm like, can you sign off on this? And then I'll go show the art director.
That's hilarious. Look at you.
I know. I got fired from that job.
It's, you know, the you guys know the, what is it, Chuck Jones pink tree method of submitting art.
No,
like he would always he'd put something in the scene like a pink tree just to give them something to look at and go, can you change the pink tree? Right.
Nice.
That's funny.
I used to do some of that. Like I would almost submit a piece of almost be done with a piece of art to submit to the client, and I'd be like, this needs to be finished, but I'm running late. I'm just going to submit this, and that will be his art direction. And 9 times out of 10, that'd always be the art direction. Can you resolve this over here? You know?
Yeah.
And then I would just finish it and be done with it. Because I kind of get too attached to my shit. You know, I'm an artist, man. I get sensitive. Excuse my French. Yeah. I get sensitive.
I get it.
You know?
I get it. I mean, imagine Kevin spending all this time on this. He finally finishes it, and then he submits it to the editor, and the editor's like, yeah, but can you have her body just twisting slightly to the right?
Right.
You're like,
right.
Not without ruining the entire page.
Right.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah, that's what
I'm the
happened
editor.
in the digital era, right? When we all started coloring digitally instead of by hand, it was just endless changes.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, that's part of the reason I'm so glad to be in the NFT side of things instead of the comic side of things. Because man, as soon as I started working in this field, it's like I was doing NFT comics, and it was like, they're like, how much is it going to cost? What's your rate? And I'm like, $1,000 a page. And they're like, okay. It was like, that's nothing.
Mhm.
There's so much flipping money in the NFT space.
Mm-hmm.
And then they turn around and they make, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 off of it, whatever.
Right.
And then they like hook me up with the next project. And it's like, gosh, dang it. Even before I started doing my own project, which made me, whatever. I was making better money than I had in my career, even back then, just on those, NFT projects. And boy, it's so much better here. And then it does give me, like I said, it gives me the opportunity later down the road to fulfill my broader vision. I've had a vision for a multimedia company for years.
Yeah.
And I intend to get there. And this is a way that I can actually realistically get there. Right?
Kevin, those faces are rad.
Yeah, he's dope.
You don't even care.
Oh, no, I was muted. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
I
Take
appreciate
the compliment.
it. I appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Yeah, those faces are awesome. Yeah, hers is killer. Yeah.
He was actually talking about her cleavage, but that's fine.
Yep.
Her face is
whatever
awesome.
works, man.
I
Whatever
love her
works.
eyes. Look at those eyes. They're so beautiful.
She's got two great ones.
It's like she's staring into my soul.
Is this your original IP, Kevin?
Yeah. It's a book called Dragon Guard. I'm working on trying to wrap up here.
It's dope. How many pages?
70.
Woo! And how many do you have done?
Huh? Oh, I'm working on. I'd have to go back and count, but I'm gonna say 62.
Wow.
And how many did you promise in the campaign?
In the campaign? I don't have it in front of me now, Mike.
It's 48.
Huh?
Wasn't it
No, it wasn't 48. It was I think it was 50. I'm not sure.
Glutton for punishment over here just keeps adding pages.
See, that's
that
value.
was a stretch goal. It was a stretch goal, so I wanted to make sure, people got a little extra, I guess.
Yeah, give them that value, Kevin. Don't listen to Mike. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's why.
How long is it taking you?
I don't want to get into that because I got really sick and I've had some medical issues, some kind of bad medical issues, and
car issues, and floor issues, and
when it rains,
yeah.
When it rains, it pours.
Yeah, well, I had some complications from my diabetes, and it kept creeping up. One of it was I had like this weird bout of vertigo. Like no matter how if I bend over or pick something up off the floor or turn my head too fast, I get really dizzy. And none of the original doctor that I had was just like, oh, well, you're diabetic, whatever. And I was like, man, I don't know. I don't know what's going on because I've never had this before. And granted, I didn't know I was diabetic for the longest time. And so I was trying to figure it out. And I would have this problem. And I was like, is it the medicine? And he's just like, oh, you're diabetic. And then I get this new doctor and she goes, oh, you're having this problem? Well, let's look into it.
Imagine that.
For the longest time, this doctor wouldn't. The one doctor I had, he just was old school, and he was just like, "Well, you're diabetic, so that explains everything." And I'm kind of like, I don't know, man. This is really weird.
You got type 2 or type 1?
Type 2.
Gotcha.
And so that was happening, and it was really frustrating because nobody was figure it out. And finally, this doctor she started asking all the right questions, and it made me feel a lot better about my situation. And then she started running some other tests, and um, this I had a colonoscopy last November, and or I had it scheduled. I didn't actually have it until um, January, and they found some stuff and they cut that out of me. And luckily, it wasn't cancerous, precancerous.
Was
Apparently,
it just polyps?
yeah, polyps. And well, one of it, they said it was a large intestinal mass, and that's all they described it as. Later, my doctor had a little bit more in-depth discussion about what it actually was, and it was kind of more like a polyp that had gotten way bigger than it should have, and um, so we had that, and I was in the clear. They biopsied all that, and now I had some other things, my heart and gallbladder. I've got to have my gallbladder removed, but I put that off so I could work on the book and get that wrapped up. So yeah, it's been a nightmare of things, just constantly with my health. And like Mike said, I had the month of March through April was a nightmare of other things happening. Like, everybody has problems, and if you're out there listening to me, I know everybody's got problems, but it just seemed like a large influx of things bad were happening all at once.
Right. That's how they go.
Yeah.
They all go together like Reese's Pieces, bro.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but I'm back on the mend and drawing, and it's feeling a lot better. So that's a good thing. I mean,
You still dealing with the vertigo and stuff?
no, we actually figured that out. Well, I have it sporadically, and it's very, very rare now. It's not basically there's exercises. With the vertigo, it wasn't because of my medicine. It was apparently something you have in your ear, because most people probably know this, but your ears control your balance.
Right.
And there's a fluid or something in crystals in your ear or something. The way they described it, it's really weird and hard for me to remember exactly how it goes. But basically, something had gotten knocked out of kilter in the fluid in my ear or whatever, and it was causing all this problem. So anytime I turned my head, or if I looked down, mainly it was looking down or looking up. It wasn't so much turning my head. I could drive and everything would be fine. My balance was good. But if I, let's say I bent down to get something out of the dryer, clothes out of the clothes dryer or something like that, I would immediately almost feel like I was going to fall out on the floor. Mm-hmm. And couldn't suss it out. And she gave me a bunch of these exercises to do, basically turning your head, putting your head down on the bed, raising yourself back up, turning your head a certain way, then turning it as you like. And eventually it balanced out my ears. So I don't have that problem. The only problem I have with the vertigo is now when I cough too hard. Like if I get into a coughing fit or something like that, it will mess me up, and I'll have to sit down and be like, don't nobody ask me anything, don't do anything, give me about 10 minutes to even out, and then I'll be fine. But it doesn't happen anywhere near as much as it used to. Mm-hmm. And I'm thankful. I mean, she actually cared about trying to suss out what was wrong with me. And then, she also recommended I get the vaccine, but we won't get in all that mess. But Mike razzes me a tad bit about that, just a little bit, and it's fine. It's fine.
So she tempted you with the magical elixir as a cure to your inner ear problem.
Well, no. It just was one of those things where they were like, "Oh, do you want the vaccine?" And at that time, nobody knew a whole lot of what was going on with it.
They still don't.
I did.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, okay.
I did too. I called
that here.
All right.
I called it from day one, actually, just because I had been down that rabbit hole for the last 10 years, and I had already been hip to Fausti and the Funky Bunch, from
Uh-huh.
the HIV
You
witch
mean
hunt.
Captain AIDS, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Captain
yeah.
AIDS. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm friends with investigative reporters that cover that stuff.
Oh, cool.
So I was already hip to Kerry Mullis and the guy that i.e. the guy that invented the so-called test everybody is using
Mhm.
as the gauge as to whether or not you got Candyman. That's my nickname for it.
Oh, there you go.
Because it only exists when you say it so many times.
Exactly.
It's not a real thing. It's just a fantasy everybody just made up to hide their own nonsense.
Yeah. I learned the hard way, but at the time, I did what I thought was best, just because I was diabetic, and obviously they tell you your immune system's compromised when you're diabetic and all this other stuff. So I thought to myself, I was like, well, maybe it's best that I go ahead and bite the bullet. And everybody on the stream was like, "What? You got it?" And I was like, "Man, I know what you're saying. I feel you coming through the screen." But it was the best.
I just don't want you to be a victim of SADS, the sudden adult death syndrome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would not be cool.
Well, trust me.
My letterer, Bill Tortellini, 2 months.
Oh,
2 months post Pokey.
What happened to him?
Dropped dead.
Get out of here.
No,
for real.
I don't know what I mean. Who looked up how graphene oxide helps you be healthy? Who actually looked that fact
up? Who adds mother flipping HIV to a vaccination?
Well, that's another fantasy thing that doesn't exist. That's never been proven to exist. What you're giving people is AIDS.
We're going.
No, I mean you're giving people AIDS, because
that's what I'm saying. You'll get a positive HIV test.
Well, AIDS is real, not HIV, but AIDS is real. There's no test for HIV, just like there's no test for COVID. There's just no test. AIDS is real though. Like your immune your immune system will be destroyed if you poison yourself. Yes, 100%. That's real. That's a real thing. And that's what
but AIDS is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome.
Well, you acquire it because you poison yourself, and eventually you acquire poisoning. Right? Like your body filters.
Yeah, but did you acquire it up your butt?
So here's this is interesting that you say this, because that's a fact. Because okay, why did the gay community get AIDS during the whole freedom of sexual expression decades?
Fauci.
Right? No, because they stay up all night, party all night, drink all night, eat, not do cocaine all night, and then put petroleum products on their pee-pees. Not good combination. Not good combination for health. And then you go into a doctor and you go, I don't feel good. What do? They give them antibiotics. What does antibiotics? Make you sicker.
Destroys your immune system.
Right. It destroys your microbiome, which is your biotics, your life inside your body, which you are mostly bacteria. You're more bacteria than you are human cells. So you're going to put antibiotics in your body to make up for the fact that you just put cocaine in your body for the last week. And then you get sicker. And then then Fausti and the Funky Bunch go, take AZT as a cure. What's AZT? A toxin. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, and then you're dead. And then you blame HIV, a thing that's never even existed.
They'll probably give you chemotherapy too, just to knock.
Right, totally. just to make sure it's all burnt up to a crisp.
Let's just add a little bit to this.
Right.
All right, before my channel gets banned, let's probably change this.
I don't know why you invited me. If you want to keep your channel, But I could back everything I'm saying with 10
the oil gives you cancer. But did you guys see that latest clip of Brandon saying that?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
I don't know where to find it. Somebody sent it to me. I'll play it.
Which one? What?
It's this clip where he's out there talking. He's talking about how when he was a kid, he remembers driving down. I think was it Delaware or what was it? Rhode Island or something like that. Oh no, it was I think it was Delaware. He's like, yeah, and I remember my mama turned on the windshield wipers to get the oil off the windows, and that's why me and everybody in Delaware has cancer. And it's like, what?
Yeah,
He admitted
What
it.
are you saying?
yeah. He said that. And Mike's not exaggerating or altering or paraphrasing.
He had to
No, he
straight up
really
tell
said
it.
I mean, he seriously said that phrase. He said, "That's why I and everybody around me had cancer."
He's actually
And then
telling the truth,
I
man.
don't know what's going on, man. This dude is saying some stuff.
He's
that,
fun. He's fun. He makes me laugh
Oh my gosh!
because it's so ridiculous. It's so
like
ridiculous
the
that anybody would take that guy seriously. It's like it's very weird. It's very weird.
I gotta.
Zach, that
man.
piece is dope, yo.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you.
It's great.
Very watercolory.
It's great. It's great.
Trying to get it all together. It's gonna take me like all tomorrow.
Love it.
For the love.
For the love. Do it for the love. You could put it in your portfolio, Zach.
Oh yeah. When it just tag it in Twitter.
All right.
Los
Los Angeles
notice me senpai.
what am I doing here? America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him. The best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to.
Is that right?
Anyway, from Charlotte, another line going from in Florida down to Tampa of Putin's kleptocracy. Yeah.
Wow.
The idea that
It's like elder abuse.
Wow.
Rugged went important and he did ride.
for two reasons.
Wow.
One, we haven't been able to communicate it in a way that is, let me say another way. With the nature, not a solid meeting with they make a very good point. Here's the deal. Here's what drives the driver in the states that are affected. Here's what you can do, the drivers.
We want to expand pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds, millions of pre-K students.
I swear to God, they found this guy in the street. He's just some crazy homeless dude on the side of the road. Let's make him president. It's like an old 80s movie. Let's make him president.
That guy has his finger on the button.
Wow.
What's this one do?
Wow. I think what amazes me more about him is just that people like wanted him.
All right. Yeah. So there's another one that's going to get me kicking off YouTube because
Okay. You
ain't
did
no
it.
way, no how, no 81 million people freaking voted for that guy.
I just don't believe it.
No. All right. We'll stop there before.
More popular than Barack Obama?
I can't say the word that rhymes with broad.
He's fun though. Think about how many.
It would
how
be
many,
much more fun if he wasn't literally in
Well, that's why I brought up the last subject before we started talking about this. It was because about my heart and having to do the stress test because I was worried that the other thing might have affected my heart.
It's possible.
Anyway, I'm not saying what it is. I'm just simply saying, going back to the other conversation, I was worried that had taken its toll on me.
Yeah, Rhaegar says, remember when Joe Biden said like 300 million people died from guns in America? I know that was a rough day for America.
Wow.
Yeah. We were all dead, apparently.
How did we all snap back from that?
I don't know. We're just very, very lucky.
We like rabbits.
Snakebite, did you see the weird white blood? I don't even call them blood clots. The weird white clot things inside the this mortician reported that like
the blood is sludgy and then
no, it's like these long white, and they're not clots because a clot when you crush a clot it disintegrates, right? These things are like fibrous and they're in people's. He said they're in like half of the corpses that come in when they drain their blood. There's these
Mhm.
long, and they just started appearing
Mhm.
like last year from
Mhm.
something that we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually have heard reports. A friend of mine who had bought a lot of commissions from me. He does a lot of comic shows, goes to a lot of comic shows, and he had a really severe bout with that thing that we talked about that I won't say. And he had and what he had described as black blood.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it's been sludge. Have any of you guys actually looked up graphene oxide? Graphene oxide, the other name for it, Roundup is glyphosate, right? And they used to call it Agent Orange back in the 70s. It's the same stuff that they put in Roundup is what they sprayed in jungles in Vietnam.
Great
Now,
band though, right?
great band.
Agent Orange.
Oh yeah, totally. So yeah, classic stuff.
That's a
Graphene
skate.
oxide is ferrofluid. You look up ferrofluid, it's pretty amazing. It's like venom, basically. It's a black liquid that is responsive to electromagnetic frequencies. And you can find demonstrations that have nothing to do
Oh
with
yeah, that stuff that like spikes up when you put a magnet in it.
Yes. And that is the base of one of the two, at least one of the two vaccines. I think it was the Pfizer. I can't remember if it was the Pfizer or the Moderna. And the other vaccine had called what was it called? M120. It was just like a number. I had to look it up again. But they're both toxins. Both of these things are known toxins that if you look them up on government websites, they say stay out of human consumption.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Both of them. Graphene oxide actually was pitched a few years ago as a medical delivery system because they can control it in the body and tell it where to go. So if I like inject
Programmable DNA.
kind of, but mostly through frequencies. So it responds to free. You can see it like they'll pour it in a tube and they'll bring a magnet and it will respond to the magnet and go wherever the magnet is going. And yeah, so let's say you got this water, this fluid in you that can solidify when exposed to a frequency. Why do you think people are having heart problems and clogging and stuff like that? Because traditionally, when people die of heart attacks, they're not dying of cholesterol clogging. People say it's cholesterol. No, it's the inflammation that's keeping the cholesterol from traveling through the system that is causing the disruption. This stuff is actually solidifying in healthy. That's why young people are dying, is because it's solidifying in healthy people's arteries and stopping the blood flow.
Microclots.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the programmable DNA stuff, I know that's kind of a, what do you call it?
Yeah.
Conspiracy theory thing.
No, that's real too.
Yeah, I know. But this is what made me think that was even possible, because I was like, how could you even get there? Dude, did you know that the enzymes that were used to break down the oil in the BP spill in, what was that, the year 2001, something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? The BP oil spill. Back then, those enzymes were man-made. Those were programmed on a mother flipping computer, and the DNA was written to create the enzymes that help break down the oil spill. And I'm like, how is it 22 years later before I heard about this freaking miraculous, Frankenstein monster of mankind creating basically programmable enzymes back then?
Yeah.
And where are we going to be now? And all this stuff, this conspiracy theory stuff sounds very, very plausible now.
Oh, it's very plausible. I mean, there's nanotechnology, and I think it was the Pfizer. Again, I can't remember which one. I always mix them up, but they both have their unique properties of chaos. But one of them referred to themselves as an operating system. They totally. You went to their website, and if you read their literature, and I read it with my own eyes, they referred to their magical elixir as an operating system. And there's this thing back in the day, one of the many rabbit holes I went down as a young man, called harmonic sympathy, right? And basically, you put some kind of receiver in the body, and we all carry this, like you can influence anything at that point. If you're already compromised, you're already
Mhm.
corrupt, meaning you already have a virus in you, which is not, COVID. Like that's what everybody did. They put a computer virus in themselves, an organic computer virus in themselves, and
There's
now they're
something.
corrupt.
Someone that I trust to send me good information sent me something. I haven't vetted or watched the whole thing, but it's freaking insane, and I can't believe it at this point just because it's so crazy. But everything else he sent me has totally panned out, and it's that that people can be controlled from like this guy was doing things, and then the person like in freaking Japan, like across an ocean, just through transmitting the information to him, was doing the things the other guy was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, all right, I need to look into that before I believe any of that, because that seems just crazy. But everything else he sent me has been totally legit.
Yeah,
I'm like,
there's tests like that, and like growing DNA in empty test tubes that are right next to test tubes that are full of DNA. Like there's all kinds of weird echoing that happens, because here's the problem with, like, in the late 1800s, the schools got hijacked, or the not the schools like educational system schools, but like the schools of thought. Like, we went from Tesla to Einstein, right? Which people go together because, they watch movies and they're always using the word of Tesla, but then they introduce quantum. Now, quantum actually took over the school of thought that Tesla was part of, right? And which was more the qualitative nature of life, not the quantitative, right? The quantitative world put mass before energy, and the qualitative world puts energy before mass. So we're in principle, we're just a modality of energy, right? So we're not really, and we could prove this in a microscope, that we're not really solid, right? We're energy vibrating at different levels. So the influence of energy around us is real. Like, people want to like downplay the fact that these computers and these phones and don't have a handle on us, and that's just not true.
yeah, we're not solid.
No.
We're if you take the actual particles of an atom, and you say you blew them up to the size of like a basketball, the next closest atom, or the next closest particle of that atom, would be like a mile away. That's
So
how much empty space we actually are.
in the qualitative school of thought, that atom is not even a thing. It's a dynamo. It's a spark, right? So that's why we could just keep zooming in on them, because it's empty. It's not a real. There's no particles, or or virtual particles, or any of that stuff in the qualitative school of thought. That was something that the quantum school brought in. But in fact, what you're looking at is just energy, right? Just everybody's looking for a God particle and everything, right? But it's just energy. It's just spark. It's just electric,
Yeah. E equals MC squared.
That's what they say, but it's actually the reverse. He stole, Einstein stole that from somebody else. And
Oh, really?
And he changed it to fit that model. Again, there's a big hijacking of understanding. Like, everybody that worked for Edison back in the day, like Tesla included, Einstein didn't work for Edison, and there's a reason for that, because Einstein didn't invent anything. All his ideas were pontifications. They had no fruit, right? You'll know a man by his fruits, right? So he just had a bunch of pontification, theories, where the people that work for Einstein or Edison believed in the qualitative nature of electricity and life in general. And they had all the inventions and everything. And what's funny about that is Edison went on to fund all those early industrial cartoons that we used to watch in school. A is for Atom and stuff like that. So he funded the education to teach us away from the understanding of the qualitative universe, right? Like, he taught us the quantum mechanics when they didn't even practice quantum mechanics at Edison. They thought it was all nonsense. And you only know this if you read the books of Edison and Steinmetz and Heaviside and what was the other guy's names? No, Steinmetz. Charles Proteus Steinmetz. Charles Proteus Steinmetz was the guy that worked under Edison that reverse engineered all of Tesla's ideas and stole them from Tesla.
Well, here's an interesting point about Tesla, though, because like I don't know if you know this, but cancer was practically non-existent until they started electrifying cities, and as each city got electrified, cancer started to rise in those cities. And then Tesla wanted to transmit electricity through the air.
Yes.
And I always wondered, what the hell would have that done to the cancer rates?
I don't think electricity has much to do. I think that maybe it has more to do with frequency than it has to do with
we are electrical, so if you're just causing fields that disrupt our natural electronic
and that goes in the realm of frequency more than electricity, like what frequency that you're dialing in all these transformers and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I think it mostly has to do with all the nonsense that they pass in the air, all the the news and the fear porn and all that stuff. Like, I think if anything is effective.
It's crazy. It's like people who don't believe in like the spiritual world or anything like that. It's like I only believe in what I can see. You can't see the megatons of information that is flying through your brain to get to somewhere else. That's all over, everywhere, all the time.
Right.
So that we can pick up our phone and collect some of that information. Right?
Yeah,
How bizarre.
I believe that. I think we're receiving a soul. I think that we're just a big antenna and we receive the soul and we either tune into God or we tune into the nonsense that's around us.
Or the other side.
Right.
We tune into the upside down.
Right. Which I think is this realm in a lot of ways. I feel like this is the training ground, right? Get your soul tuned. Right? Like all these weird challenges that challenge the way that we think and everything. Is this show about this? Are we steering off course?
This show's about whatever we talk about until we get kicked off of YouTube. No, but we want to bring this back to NFTs. Now, how can we apply all of that?
Well, I think we talked about this too the other day about how like the power of the delivery system of the art and the storytelling, like we're already in that mindset, like the information that you put in your stories, it's just a continuation of that mentality, right? Like, okay, so if I can hide a bunch of Easter eggs in my story, like what can I do with an NFT? Like anything, next level stuff. Like you want to be a part of the reprogramming of this world and getting people to tune into more of their natural selves instead of this weird upside down, like, storytelling is some of the most potent methods of that.
Oh, dang. What about the Illuminati? That would be a great NFT collection.
Illuminati.
I got to write that. Trademark.
You spell it Naughty. Illuminati. It could be a bunch of like, pinup girls that represent certain
naughty,
certain families.
Just get siege on that.
You can have the Rothschild bunnies and stuff,
Yeah.
And the Rockefeller, hoes. And like what else?
The Rockefeller Rockettes.
The George Soros. The
Soros sluts.
Yeah, toward the Soros sluts. Dude, an Illuminati, Naughty calendar, annual calendar.
It's not Clinton, it's Arkancided.
That would be fun.
Yeah. I know you've been posting your IP up on Facebook. Do you want to talk about it or show
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. So me and my lady have developed this right now I'm just calling it a transmedia package because I can't call it a comic. I don't know if I want to even deal with comic books in that level. It's kind of like it's a licensing, wonder what is it? Wonder Palace, sorry, there's an explosion in the background. My neighborhood gets sketchy. So we're developing this character called Monkey Kitty. and we've developed a YouTube channel around Monkey Kitty, but it's an offshoot that covers more of me and my lady, doing creative stuff and going on adventures and working on my adventure mobile, because she has an adventure mobile in her story. I have an adventure mobile in our story. So it's
Is
kind
this
of
the
like
only
an
piece
all.
you have up right now?
Is that my Twitter?
No, yeah, I saw more. Where'd you have it on?
Probably on my Snakebite Cortez wall. Yeah, so that's part of our channel right there, and
There we
there's
go.
some of our Monkey Kitty development. And
Oh,
she's
cool.
great. She was kind of like developed about 9 years ago, and she kind of fits what's going on right now, because she's a hybrid avatar that was born into this world called the Flow, and the Flow is an e-commerce based matrix. So she has this programming of the Flow, but since she's a hybrid, she's also got this other programming that makes her kind of question the world that she lives in, which is based on, debt and fear and pushing great deals on rubber dog shit. Right. And so she kills that game, and she's at the top. She gets all the likes and everything, but she starts to question, because in this world, all these avatars, they have, like in Tron, have this other being that they're attached to, right, in another realm that you don't know anything about. So they're all serving this other being, but in the world that she lives in, they're all pushing fear and debt and anxiety, and she doesn't like that. She starts to kind of reject that energy, and she starts to question her role in making the person that, the entity on the other side that owns her, unhappy, and she feels it in her heart. So she starts to question the Flow. And this is all the beginning of the story, when we get to that point. So I'm not really giving anything away. She experiences the world that turns on her, because she starts reading, not going with the Flow, right? So the world starts to turn against her, and she has a great fall, like all heroes do. And she's faced with, facing herself, and she discovers an old friend in her first fall, or she discovers her first friend, excuse me, that is an old soul that's been reborn into this teddy bear and radio combination that ends up being this ancient king that has been sitting in this trash pile forever, who ends up being her best friend and encouraging her to go out on an adventure and discover her purpose. And
Cool.
that's all kind of at the beginning. And so the rest of the tale is kind of like an epic buddy adventure, something like Calvin and Hobbes meets Tron meets The Alchemist,
Nice.
with the marketing power of Hello Kitty.
Very
So
nice.
she's very cute, and a lot of characters she meets are very cute, but the world itself is very sophisticated. So you get kind of the best of the both worlds, right? Like the dudes want to see the cool mecha and the technology and the fights and the explosions and the epic backgrounds, and you get all of that with this story.
Yeah, and I know I was just kind of starting to explain to you about the value of utility and NFTs and all that stuff earlier
Right.
today. Did you have any time to cogitate on that at all?
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely with her, what's great, what I was getting from Zach too, what I really liked about Zach is like selling characters, right? That they can eventually come back and interject somehow, or always be a part of somehow. There's so many. I mean, she's she's born in a commerce-based reality, so it just goes hand in foot with what it is that you're talking about. There's a lot of aspects to what it is that we want to do. We eventually want to get into animation. Eventually want to get into publication. We eventually want to get into games and merchandise. So all of those things can lead these NFTs to facilitate utility. So I can totally see selling NFTs that eventually can allow people to buy some of this merch and some of these other transmedia devices that we create at a discounted price, or there's some other kind of VIP treatment that allows early adopters of this world and supporting us through the NFT exchange. There's just so much potential. Like, it really becomes overwhelming at that point. It's limitless, so
Yeah.
really, one of the first things that we're talking about is like, how do we release this story? Because it's really a big story. It's very meta, and I'm only scraping the surface of it when I explain it to you, because we've had almost a decade of development time with it. And it was really created for the now. Like, it took this long to develop her because it's really about the now. It applies more now than it did 10 years ago. And so at this stage, it's just kind of like we are trying to figure out how do we introduce it besides like leaking images like this and develop. This is actually the first project that I've wanted to share the BTS. I'm usually that guy that says, don't show me the BTS. I just want the finished product. I don't want the mystery revealed. But since her character herself is a work in progress, you'll see her development change. She'll physically change as the story evolves. So the idea of sharing her process is very valid to me as far as a storytelling method. And I think that there's utility in that. Like people can get their hands on early development art and be a part of like ground floor level stuff, right? Because this thing's gonna blow up at some point. I truly believe it. She's a great property. The story has mad heart, and cute sells. Like my mentors were king of cute. Like one of my closest friends who was my teacher, his name's Charles Zimbilis. He developed Spiral the Dragon and Crash Bandicoot and Jack and Daxter, and he was one of the original He-Man artists. So this dude is just like,
you just excited Kevin.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. He's one of the only living He-Man artists from back in the day, and one of the only original artists that saved his art. Those guys literally, they literally dumped
Kevin
out
just
artwork.
got a chubby.
They literally dumped.
Now, I like this stuff, but it ain't like that. No, go ahead.
I was going to say these guys, the company. What was it? What was the company that produced that He-Man? What was it?
Hasbro?
Was it Hasbro? They literally threw out their artwork after every season. He told me.
Oh, they did that at Disney too. That was
Like,
back then. Nobody thought there was a freaking market for any of that stuff.
So he actually kept some of his artwork. He developed some of the miscellaneous characters. He had kept the original artwork on that. But
I think it might have been Disney. I can't remember if it was Disney or Hanna-Barbera. They would actually clean the sheets of acetate after they shot them because the acetate was so expensive.
Right.
That they would just wipe them down and repaint.
It's bizarre. That's why they reused a lot of those sequences. They just would trace them. Yeah. So me and my lady, Sammy, we developed this, and we want to like release it in a kind of like sample pack. Like, how can we release it in one sample pack? And after talking to you and a couple other people, I really feel like the NFTs, when we get to that point, because we really got to build our fan base. I'm really that's where I'm at logistically. Is okay, I got all the art, I got the vision, I got the passion, we got the story. Like, so now we got to start building the fan base. Like, we're really like, I've worked for so many companies, but I haven't really fostered a personal fan base. I haven't really used the internet to kind of promote myself and build that way. I've always been too busy doing other stuff with the mentality of independence and self-sustainment. So I've always been in that mindset, but now I'm just kind of like, oh, hey, I'm ready to tackle this. But I'm literally building a fan base from zero. So I'm
0 to 1 million.
From your lips to God's ears.
Let's go.
Your lips
All right,
to God's
everybody.
ears.
It's been 2 hours. Snakebite, obviously, I'm here to help anytime you need any.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. I appreciate the invite too. Nice meeting you guys too.
Zach, Kevin, you got any last words before we nope out?
Don't be Joe. I don't know.
Don't be Joe? Oh. Kevin, let's go, Brandon. Kevin, you're muted. I don't know if you're aware of this.
Hey, let's go, Brandon.
Hey, everybody.
He looks frozen.
All right, Kevin's frozen, so hopefully he's not frozen in time. God bless us, everyone. Thank you for joining
God bless.
us. And we'll see you in the next
gratitude.
exciting episode of Wednesday Night Frat Chat. Peace.